All right, let's dive into something kind of strange about modern life, a real paradox. We're going to investigate a mystery. Why does a world so obsessed with pleasure and happiness seem to be making us so anxious? We're going to trace the clues, almost like detectives, to see how our relationship with enjoyment got this complicated. Let's get into it. You know that feeling, right? That weird pressure to have the perfect vacation, the most incredible weekend, and of course, you've got to post it all so everyone knows. It's that little voice in your head that says enjoying yourself isn't just an option, it's a requirement. This feeling, this modern anxiety, that's our first clue.
I mean, on the surface, our society is this nonstop engine built for satisfaction. We've got endless entertainment, instant gratification on demand, more choices than any human has ever had before. But something feels off, doesn't it? Underneath it all, so many of us feel this constant low-level dissatisfaction. This contradiction is the heart of the mystery. And to understand it, we have to go back to the very beginning, to the fundamental conflict of just being human.
So, to really crack this case, we have to rewind way back. Our investigation starts with psychoanalysis because it shows us that the very idea of society, of civilization itself, comes with a pretty steep psychological price tag.
So Sigmund Freud argued that at our core, we're basically driven by these raw, primal instincts. But look, you can't build a functioning world if everyone is just acting on every single impulse. It would be chaos. So to live together, we have to make a kind of deal, a compromise between what we want deep down and what the world needs from us.
And this right here, this is the core conflict playing out inside all of us. On one side, you've got the pleasure principle. That's the part of you that wants what it wants right now. It's all about immediate joy, play, no rules. But civilization, well, it's built on the reality principle. And that's the voice of society saying, hey, hold on, delay that satisfaction. You need to work. Trade that instant joy for some long-term security.
And that's the cost of the deal. The philosopher Herbert Marcuse, who built on Freud's ideas, he put it really bluntly. He basically said that civilization isn't designed to make us ecstatically happy. No, it's designed by repressing our raw happiness. Sure, we get safety and order, but the price is a toned-down, managed, compromised version of joy.
Okay, but this is where our investigation takes a really sharp turn. Because the story isn't just about a simple, necessary trade-off for survival. There's something else going on, a hidden layer of control.
And this is the million-dollar question that Marcuse asks. Okay, fine. Some repression is obviously necessary, so we don't just descend into total chaos. But does that explain the intense pressure to work a job you might hate, or to fit into all these specific social boxes? Is all of this control really about basic survival?
Marcuse's answer is a big, loud no, and he gives it a name: surplus repression. This is all the extra control, all the psychological rules that go way beyond what we actually need to survive. This surplus isn't about keeping us safe, it's about keeping a specific social and economic system running smoothly.
And that system is organized around what he calls the performance principle. What does that mean? It's the underlying idea that our lives, our very worth, should be judged by how productive, efficient, and economically useful we are. This principle is what steers our desires away from just simple, aimless play and pushes them toward work, not just to survive, but for the sake of performance itself.
And that brings us to the modern day, the scene of the crime, you could say. Because this whole system has evolved. The way control works now is way more subtle and honestly a lot weirder. The old rulebook has been thrown out and replaced with a new, totally paradoxical command. And here, the theorist Jean Baudrillard just completely flips the script. He points out this massive reversal. In our world, pleasure isn't forbidden. It's the exact opposite. It has become our civic duty to have fun, to be happy, to consume. Enjoyment is no longer a right, it's an obligation. Now, to really get what kind of enjoyment is being demanded of us, we need this specific term, jouissance. This is not just quiet contentment, okay? This is an intense, excessive, almost painfully overwhelming pleasure. Think about the crazy rush of a massive shopping spree, or the high of a photo going viral. It's a pleasure that's all about pushing limits. And it's this exact kind of intense experience that our consumer society tells us we have to chase. So you see this fundamental switch in how control works, right? The old system was obvious. It just said no. It used external laws and taboos to forbid things. But the new system, oh, it's way sneakier.
It screams, yes, enjoy, have more. It demands we chase that jouissance through a duty we've absorbed into ourselves. Control doesn't look like a sensor anymore. It looks like the endless free choices in a mall.
So in this world, everything becomes a sign. Your car, your clothes, those vacation photos, they aren't just things anymore. They're words in a social language. Baudrillard argues we don't even consume things for their usefulness anymore. We consume them for what they say about us in this massive universal code of social status.
And this leads to a pretty startling conclusion. If our whole society communicates through what we buy, then maybe our personal desires aren't really our own. They become speech effects, just echoes of the code that's speaking through us. We think we're expressing our unique, authentic selves, but a lot of the time, we're just speaking the language that the system taught us to speak.
So, after following all the clues from Freud's office all the way to the modern shopping mall, what have we actually discovered? Let's recap the key steps and how pleasure got turned upside down.
So here's the path that got us here. First, there was the basic trade-off. Freud showed us we have to repress some pleasure just to build a civilization. Then came the surcharge. Marcuse revealed how society piles on extra repression, not for survival, but for control. And finally, the great inversion. Baudrillard showed us how today that control wears the mask of freedom by commanding us, ordering us to enjoy.
And that leaves us right here with one final and pretty unsettling question. When the very act of having fun can actually be a form of obedience, what does it even mean to be truly free? If pleasure is a duty, then maybe, just maybe, real rebellion isn't about seeking more pleasure, but about something else entirely. And that's a thought to take with you.